Okie doke. So you'd be coming in, unlocking your door, light switch on the right, open both doors just so cables don't get caught, and then you're going to wheel out the cabinet. So you can see the cable on the back is looped over and then draped over the top. It's just too thick to try and get anything else in here. We may look at a different bracket in the future, which would be good, but this is what we've got for now. So wheeling it out. Okay. You also want the tripod, which is in the tripod bag on the shelf as soon as you go in. And I'm going to set the camera up first, so then I can use the tripod with the camera on to record the rest. So tripod out, the legs just open up. And then so you're pushing it all the way down and then lifting it back, and it's sort of locked in place. So I'm going to leave it lying down a moment because I wouldn't do this one-handed. So we're going to unclip each of these, extend all the legs, lock them in place. Do that for each of these. So again, you wouldn't be doing this one-handed. This is just me showing you for the purpose of the recording only. Unlock all of that. Extend all the way out. And then it goes up. So it's two legs against the back wall, one leg sticking out, and you can leave the bag under here or put it away in the cupboard, depending on how tidy you're being. There's not normally chairs in the way here though. This is for setting up a pantry. Then at the top here, we've got an adjustment here. We can loosen this off. Lefty loosey, righty tighty, that's it. Turn it to the right, or turn this to the left. Lefty loosey, righty tighty. Left, loosen it off. So you've got adjustment here. And this is the shoe. And we're going to unscrew this to allow the shoe to slide out so that we can mount the camera on it. Okay. So you might do this in a slightly different order. Got the bag here. I'm going to open up the middle compartment to get to my camera first. Well, not my camera, Christchurch camera. So inside the middle you can see there's the cables which are loose and the expensive bits of hardware which are in the net. Okay, so I'm just going to grab the camera out, and you can turn the camera upside down and you can see here there's the little screw where we're going to screw this in. So here's the hole where the shoe is going to screw in. So you can see the screw here. That's going to go against there. And then you just lift that little handle up and then twist it round, and you should feel it tighten up. And then just close that over. That folds out of the way. And what I've just noticed on this, we need an Allen key because this is slightly loose here. And this just needs tightening up. I haven't got an Allen key with me right now, so we're just going to mount the camera. And then you do this two-handed so you don't drop the camera, and just tighten the shoe mount back up. You can feel it's locked in place. It's wobbly because the Allen key nut on the top needs tightening. And then I've tightened this off for adjustment as well. You would be then, well, connecting cables up, but you'd be loosening lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, loosening this off, raising the camera up even more, and you'd be tightening that off as well. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm going to show you how to do the cables, and to do that I need it low down. So to turn the camera on and off, you open that panel, you can see a message appeared saying, "We think the lens cover's closed." And it is closed. So you've got a little button here, make sure it's open. I'm just going to tighten this off so it reduces some of the wobble. So you can see we've got what's going to be shown there now. So we go back over to our camera bag. We need anything with a little red bit of electrical tape on is for the camera. Red electrical tape. Well, that's used for something else in a moment to do with the camera. This is red electrical tape. So we take these, take our cables and this power adapter over. I think I'll put some red electrical tape around that as well, so it is all colour coded. So first thing we're going to do, make sure your power's off, always be safe. Plug this in here. One-handed undoing all our cables. So you'll notice we have red electrical tape, our USB extender. This is just for power. So we're going to plug it in here, and really sneakily the USB cable to power it is tucked into the handle here. Never forget that. Don't try and get a custom, a normal cable to plug it in here. It doesn't power it from that under that flap. It needs to be plugged in here. And so one-handed, I shall attempt to plug this in. No, need two hands. Right, so that's plugged in. That's got power. For the camcorder to talk to the laptop that will be on the sound desk over there, you need this little adapter. It's a micro HDMI adapter, and it's got that little end that's going to go in that little hole. I've done something, I made a mistake already. We don't want any cables pulling and damaging the camera or ports. We feed the cables through the handle so that any weight is held by the handle of the camera. And it's the same for this little cable, because in the end of it, it's going to be a normal HDMI. So it's going to feed around and into here. This is awful camera work, sorry. Hello. So we've got HDMI, the USB is plugged in, that cable is going through the handle, you can see. This one is going to put weight on the handle when we get the HDMI plugged in. And the HDMI cable, again, red on it, it's the camera. And we've got this camera one here. Okay. Plug in here. Other end plugs in to the camera. Again, struggling for one-handed. There we go. So that's plugged in and it's held by the weight of the camera handle. So obviously you wouldn't leave it like this. You would neaten that up. We'd wander back over here. Haven't got too many messy bits now. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to record on the laptop, on the camcorder. But we'll get this is for sound. And we're just going to pop it up on the table here. And this is for the video. You can see USB capture HDMI Magewell. So it's a USB capture, HDMI capture card that plugs into a computer via USB. So we're going to need that. We're going to need the cables. And we will be needing the laptop. We'll need the laptop power lead, which is in this front pocket. As you look at the bag, you can see it's slightly lower than the other pockets, and it's got the Victorinox. And I keep the power cable in a different pocket because sometimes you just want the power lead without pulling out other cables. So, and then the laptop, you wouldn't open the bag all of the way like this. You might only need to open it part way. The laptop is in the very back pocket. As I was saying, the laptop is in the back of the bag. And you just lift it out. You can see the base faces the back so that the screen is protected on the other side. This is the screen. This is the bottom of the laptop faces the outside of the bag. And you can see that this is the back because the hinge is here. That you hold from the hinge because this sharp edge nestles more comfortably in the bottom of the bag, so that like the front of the laptop here nestles into the bag when you put it away. So always try and put it away that way. It just goes into the bag easier, and so you can zip up the pocket more easily. That's what I find anyway. So I'll bring you in closer. Close this door out of the way. Spin this around so I can see what I'm doing. So probably one of the first things you do, you might not set up the camcorder. I was just showing you that so that I could grab the camcorder and film myself on this. So you'd probably be turning the laptop on straight away, so opening it up and pressing the little power button. I'd left it in standby, sorry, so this is on already. To just make sure that your computer works, because if the computer doesn't work, you have to come up with a plan B for the service of maybe just recording it on the camcorder and trying to figure out what to do to get things on screen. So we're going to plug in the laptop. It's off at the wall here. Just plugging this in, lowering it to the ground, don't drop things, and then just feeding the power cable around the back of the laptop so that your work area at the front is clear, and then it just plugs in on the side here. We want to deal with all of these cables. So you probably wouldn't be doing it this way, but we've got this bank of cables. You want to start at the very back and work your way towards the power. You don't plug the power in and turn it on till all of the cables are plugged in. We don't want to pop any speakers to break anything. So you can't plug anything really in the wrong socket. So we plug in this one here first. This different coloured tape, electrical tape on here is just to hold the cables together apart from when we get to the HDMI. So we're going to plug in all of that sound first. Then there's an XLR cable, the next cable along. And now this has got 3 pins in, and you can see there's 3 holes that correspond. That plugs in there. We've got 2 HDMI leads here, one with red tape That's for our camera over there. And it says camera on here. So we go camera first. Then the unmarked HDMI cable is going in our HDMI socket labelled screens. That's for the TV screens. Then we've got RCA cables, sound cables, white and red. So the white one goes in the white, the red one goes in the red. So that's if we had a music group using the input over there. That gets it to the sound desk, that gets it to the speakers. We've also got an Ethernet cable, which is for our internet. So we're going to plug that. I always plug it in the bottom one. And then lastly, like I said, we've got our power cable. We plug that in, and now I can power both of those on. So we've got some leads here to plug in. We're going to do these leads first. So we're going to go with the Ethernet cable first. This is a little bit tricky. This little hinge, it locks in place. It's spring loaded, so you almost have to push the bottom where the little tab is that's springy on the Ethernet cable. You have to push the bottom down at an angle and then in like that. Then we can see we've got HDMI next, so we grab our lovely HDMI lead. It's a lovely braided cable. Plug HDMI in. So this is the unmarked HDMI lead that whatever is on the laptop screen is seen on the this gets the laptop images over to the TV screens. And then we've got two cables left here. We've got a sound one and we've got another HDMI, and this HDMI, you can see it's got the red cable in it, red tape on, and this HDMI goes into our capture card. So HDMI in here, more red tape on our USB 3 cable, and it's marked the same at both ends, but it's the same cable at both ends, so it doesn't matter what way around that goes in. But we want to dangle this onto the table so that the capture card isn't dangling off the back of the table and doesn't become loose and disconnect itself, and we have issues with the camera. So that's resting on the table. Then we bend, I might even swap this round to go with the bend of the cable. So work with the cables. So I just unplugged the cable because it actually bends that way. You don't have to bend that round in the cable. So I'm using the cable with itself. Oops. So this blue cable goes in the USB slot closest to me. I think it might make a difference with the way the software is set up. This is the way I've done it, so maybe I should have told you, do this sound first before the HDMI for the camera. So this sound card adapter, it's got USB-C cable that just plugs into the back. It powers it from the laptop. So that's plugged in there. You just place it on the table here so that you can see the lights on it when it's turned on, and work with the cable. It's dangling a bit here, and it's going to plug in here. So let me just show you our cables here. So we've got power, Ethernet, HDMI to the screens, sound, and then the camera going in through here. That's all set up. You've got all the cables plugged in. You log in, typing in the password. We can open up, unlock the sound desk now, and the doors. Unlock the right hand one, put your hand inside, reach for the little catch, push down, and you can open the second one. Then they fold back on themselves, so if there's any cables, just lift the cables so they don't get caught, don't get pinched. We don't want any cables being damaged. and we're ready to turn our TVs on. So you grab a remote. If you point it between both TVs, it turns them both on at the same time. If you just point it at one, you'll only turn one on, and then you'll have to try and point it at the other one without it turning off the first one. So I've got power. I've done that wrong. Me saying, do it this way, don't do it that way. Only one turned on, so I just put my hand over to cover the infrared sensor so I could turn on the other one. And then you'd be going into the software, and I've shown that in a different video, so I'm not going to show it now. The process of packing away you do in reverse. So you'd be unplugging things, just coiling cables loosely, tucking them into place, powering down the laptop, popping that in, closing up the cabinet, unplugging all of these cables in reverse order, so turning off power first, and then working back our way through. So I'm just going to show that in reverse order. So I'm going to power things off. The laptop has got enough battery power to cope at the moment. So it'll be unplugging because the power's off. You can just let it dangle, or you can just hold the group of cables to make sure nothing's going to dangle and hit the floor. Your Ethernet, you've got a little tab that you just have to squeeze up as you pull out, because if I just pull the cable, it won't pull out. You have to push that tab up and pull. We don't want any snapped tabs and the cable to just then fall out. It's just a nuisance to get someone in to replace it. So that pulls out. These just pull out. All the HDMI stuff pulls out. The other cable with a tab is the XLR cable. It's just hold it with your fingers underneath, thumb on the top, and your thumb just pushes. Your thumb pushes against the tab there, spring-loaded, and then you can just pull the cable out and then let go. So just once again, hand underneath, thumb just pushing on that cable on the tab, and then pulling the cable out. And then lastly, holding the sides of this cable, not pulling the cable and damaging and snapping things, but just holding the sides of the block and pulling there, and it comes out. And then you just coil it back on the cabinet bracket and then drape it over the top. I don't need to plug that in again, so I'm just going to leave that unplugged and I'll deal with that in a moment. And again, all the cables on the side of the laptop unplug really easily, apart from the Ethernet, which again has got that little spring-loaded tab that you just squeeze up. So your thumb on the top, index finger underneath, that's how I'm doing it left-handed. Thumb on the top, index finger underneath, just squeezing on that little plastic tab so that it can pull out. Because again, if I just put it back in, if I just pull on the cable, it's going to end up snapping that plastic tab or damaging the cable inside. And we don't want any issues with getting on the internet. We're hardwired in, so we've got reliability there. So, I want to tell you a bit about the sounds now. Sound-wise, it's the sound desk. So, you can see we've got Radio Mic 1, Radio Mic 2 with the earth cable, earth electrical tape on, which corresponds to Radio Mic 2 with earth cable on. We use this one in the lectern just so if you swapped it, you might get confused. I've just been using Radio Mic 2 in the lectern. We've got Radio Mic 3 and Radio Mic 4, red electrical tape, and again red electrical tape, Radio Mic 4. We've used this as the roving microphone. So if you stick to the same setup of thinking, I'm going to put Radio Mic 2 with electrical earth tape on in the lectern where we read the Bible from, then we're all consistent throughout and we know what we're doing. If one person sets up and someone else comes to sit down and operate, we want some consistency. So, and then we've got a Radio Mic 1 and Radio Mic 3, which are lapel microphones, and I'm just getting one out of here. So this is Radio Mic 3. and these don't have tape on at the moment, nothing to distinguish them. If you're here setting up the service, or you've arrived, someone else has set up, you just want to check if the person leading is on 3 or 1, so that when you're controlling the sound desk, if you need to make an adjustment, you know. And you might want to have a piece of paper and there's a pen kept in the door to the right where the remote controls are, so you can just make some notes as you go. Now for the service, essentially we were having everything set on -5. We were leaving all of our microphones on -5 volume on the board here. So everything's staying the same here, and the only control we were adjusting was volume up and down on the computer. If when the microphones are on, the sound for the computer is left up, you get some interesting reverberations through. I think it's only noticeable in the cabin. It might not be noticeable on YouTube. I haven't listened to all of that back yet. So if there's a video playing, you've got your volume up. When you get to the end of your video, just fade out. So that's the only sound I'm hoping that you'll have to adjust. If someone was really quiet on the lectern, you think, oh blimey, we can't hear them reading the Bibles or praying or intercessory prayers, then you just increase it slightly. Or if they're a bit too loud, you think, blimey, it's feeding back or just echoing, it's too loud, and you just drop it down slightly. But I'm hoping all of these will stay at the same level here. We've tried to balance it with elsewhere on the board so that it is all simplified. And so the only sound really you're worrying about is up and down on here. Maybe at the end of the service you go, oh, thank goodness that's over. It's all worked, and we'll just drop all of our microphones down, because at the end of the service, as the person leading goes out to say goodbye to everybody, we don't want any conversations being overheard from radio mic 3 or radio mic 1 if they've left the lapel mic on and not muted it. But we're trying to ask people, if you're using a microphone, you unmute it yourself and you mute it again, so that if you have any conversations on YouTube that shouldn't have been heard there, you've forgotten to mute your microphone. We're trying to simplify the sound desk as much as possible to make it accessible and not scary for anybody. So hopefully the only sound you're worrying about is volume up and down for the videos that are played on vMix. So I'm just going to run through now the slight changes that we've made to the sound desk to allow the sound desk to work. Oh, I didn't plug in. Blimey. So you know when I was setting up and saying about we'll do this and we'll do that, and you remember this box here. So we plugged in the power cable and data cable. So USB-C at the back to just USB on the laptop. And we didn't plug in any cable at the front. So you see this lovely smiley face? You're very happy hearing the sound working, and the other cable that comes out of the back left corner of the sound desk with the 2 HDMI leads, the Ethernet cable, it's a jack, 6.5mm jack that just plugs in to this jack here. And then the sound level here is just set to 9 o'clock. So if this was a clock face, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock down towards the bottom, and we're going to leave it at 9 o'clock here. When the service is running, you see this spike, or you see it turn to green, turn to orange, and turn to red. If it turns to red, you might just need to drop this down ever so slightly, because it's the levels going to the stream on YouTube that are just peaking. So it might just be one person that's using a particular microphone, and you might drop it down on the sound desk, or you might drop it down on here and then just tweak it back up. But it should be okay. Hopefully left at 9 o'clock, hopefully on the sound desk, all of these left at -5, and then just again thinking about the volume there. So that's that. Forgot about that. On the sound desk, this is the more complex setup of it. We're not worrying about any mute here because it's hard to see. These little red buttons, you can mute the feed. Instead of dropping that down, it's be that little button, but it's hard to see. Sometimes you're thinking, oh no, we've lost sound. So we're not using the mute because we want to see clearly what's going on. Experienced sound technicians will be muting just the button here to leave the level as it was. We've got these green row is auxiliary 1 for the loop system, the hearing system. These are all set pointing to a 3 o'clock position, apart from the CD, the computer, and this one labelled mixer, which is the mixer, if there was a mixer plugged in for a music group, over just to the left of the TVs on the on the mid wall. And these are all turned, so these are turned to 3 o'clock, apart from those three, which are pointing roughly to 11 or half 10, 11 o'clock. Then we've got this blue row, which is auxiliary 2. This is the sound levels that are going to YouTube. I've got all 4 microphones turned all of the way up. All of these other feeds that nothing's coming in, these are all blank slots that we've not used, are all turned to off, basically. The CD player, we haven't used that, so I don't really know if that's pointed in the right direction, but it's at 9 o'clock. The computer one is turned off as well. I've turned it off because we don't want a feedback loop. We were getting reverberation, interesting sounds sent through, and so that's off. I'm getting a low battery warning, so I'm going to stop this now and start recording on my phone again. So I think I was just talking about the blue line, and so I haven't thought about the CD or the music group because we haven't used either of those, so I'm just going to leave them set there for now. But the computer audio, because we've got the laptop set up playing videos, it sends, we control it for inside the cabin on here, but here we've got it set to 0 because we don't want it being fed through the mixer. It gets sent direct from the laptop to YouTube. The sound that gets sent from here to the laptop is only the microphones that we're concerned about capturing. So that's why these ones have all got volume turned all the way up for us. Now, the other adjustments, so you can see PFL on all of these are they're not pressed, neither's mute. We've got nothing. Oh, that shouldn't be muted. That's me just showing you before. And then all of these yellow are just all pointed to 12 o'clock. Next row up, we'll start from left to right. You can see we've got our low frequency and our mids and even our high frequency. All the grey topped ones are pointed to 12 o'clock pretty much, or they should roughly be there. The white ones in the mid frequency are all pointed to just 150, the very lowest setting there. Now you can see our gain on microphone 1, 2, 3 and 4, they're all at 12 o'clock. All of the rest are turned off. And this one is for the CD, so it's at 12 o'clock as well. 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock for both the computer and mixer. The yellow slider switches for left and right balance for the room are just set at -20, around there. We've not got a monitor plugged in and we're not listening on headphones, so those levels are turned down. The auxiliary masters for auxiliary 1 and auxiliary 2 are both left sticking up. They're not pressed down, so they're on the setting of pre, not post. Pre, not post. These monitor and to mix, these are both left pressed up. And then we've not got phantom power turned on. Phantom power isn't turned on. So that's pretty much all the settings. I don't think anyone's going to unplug any cables, but that's where all of the dials essentially are on the board. If you're using Bluetooth through the CD player, that's controlled through here. So we had a little go of that earlier, but you might be leaving the slider set to nothing there. So you can see quite clearly the only sound you're worrying about is your 4 microphones that should stay the same, and then maybe just adjusting the volume slider for a particular song, and then at the end of the songs or song, just dropping that down again. And again, these yellow sliders, if something went drastically wrong, you'd just kill the volume completely if there was awful feedback and you think, oh my goodness. So, as I say, they were set to about -20. And that's probably about that. We've got the radio mics. I'll just power it on. I'm not plugging anything in, but I'll just power it on so you can see. Turn on the power. You can see we've got this one for radio mic 1, radio mic 3, radio mic 2 or 1, so I'm guessing it'll pick onto 1 if I turn the microphone on, and 4. Not sure why that's flickering now. You can see this Denon CD player is looking to pair the Bluetooth, and we just don't touch any of those knobs. If it wasn't turned on for some reason, the power button's just there. Someone had turned it off. Oh no, the CD player isn't working. Just turn the power on. These are the power amp to the speakers in the room. So if that wasn't turned on, if the sound wasn't coming through, that might have been knocked by someone's foot. So just angle the camera down, sorry. So power, if the power had been knocked by someone resting the foot on the ledge, don't do that please. But just make sure the power's on. And we've got hole 1 and hole 2, so we can turn off, I think, the front and the back individually, and we're not using 3 and 4. There's a little box. Where has it gone? Oh, it's now. Any other issues, it's a bit more complicated. There is a little HDMI box somewhere that I won't worry about that now. We've done the basics and the setup of the sound desk, and hopefully, Andrew, Kieran, it'll go really well. So that's all we're going to cover.